my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today another detailed forecast update coming your way. We're going to recap on the severe weather that's blasted Tasmania and Victoria over the past week. We'll talk about some showers and storms across central Australia that are going to be continuing from today right throughout the forecast period into about 10 days from now. We'll talk about some showers over southwest and western Australia. We'll also talk about some heavy rainfall up in far north Queensland. All of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you are brand new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Your support is greatly appreciated. So we will start things off over in Tasmania. It's the first morning that I've actually woken up to make these videos, and I'm not seeing destructive wind gusts being reported throughout Victoria and Tasmania. You can see it here on the wind map. We're not seeing any ridiculously strong winds, still quite strong and blustery rather around Mount Cyclone Island at 59 kilometres an hour. Again, those wind gusts are really starting to ease off now. And then up at Hogan Island as well, just outside of Victoria, winds also quite strong at 52 kilometres an hour. But get this, that is a third of what the wind gusts were last night, where the winds were gusting up to 150 kilometres an hour. Very, very strong wind gusts indeed, and the strongest wind gusts Victoria has seen on record. So this weather system that has blown through, the one that blew through Sunday night into Monday morning, was record breaking by basically every measurement. The Derwent River's just starting to come off its peak of major flooding. It's still got some moderate flooding up in the Huon Valley, that sort of area outside Derwent Bridge, I believe the town is called. But there is still some moderate to major flooding in that region, but it is starting to calm down at this time, and I imagine the water levels will continue to recede throughout the course of today. There really isn't much in the way of rainfall expected across Tasmania. There will still be a couple of drops today and tomorrow across the west coast, but there really isn't too much expected until another cold front brushes up from the south late Wednesday afternoon and into early Thursday morning. This one here, again, won't bring too much in the way of rainfall. We could still be seeing up to 25 millimetres Thursday morning along the west coast of Tasmania. Some light showers as well possible up into Victoria and South Australia as a result of this weather system, but I'll touch on that a little bit later on in this video. Now, Tasmania still does have a few significant weather systems on its way. There will be some heavy falls possible, especially around the northern coast Friday and Saturday morning, where between 40 and 50 millimetres is possible to the 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. Sunday, the showers and snow will also continue, especially along the west coast and into the high peaks for the snow. And then a complex low pressure system will approach Tasmania by the looks of things Thursday, the 12th of September onwards. Now, this one here doesn't look like it's housing anything in the way of significant rainfall, but I'm just taking a look at the wind gusts here. They do look quite nasty at some places into the Great Australian Bight, and this certainly is going to be a weather system worth watching for Tasmania. This low pressure system is going to track in this kind of direction here and collide with the Tasmanian coastline probably about 2 days beyond what the forecast models are suggesting, and I've got a very high level of confidence in saying that this is a system that is very much worth the watch for Tasmania. It is a significant one. It looks like this low pressure system could cause them some problems, but again, we are still talking about 2 weeks out into the future, and it's very hard to forecast storms that far out. But I've just got my eyes on this system, and I've had my eyes on this system for the past couple of days. I think it will be a troublemaker for at least Victoria and Tasmania, and potentially South Australia as well. Now, just before we finish up on the winter weather, we'll talk about South Australia and Western Australia. There is a little cold front expected to move through South Australia on Friday afternoon. That will keep temperatures quite warm throughout the course of Friday, especially into the afternoon hours for Roxby Downs, Coober Udendata and Minterby, and there could also be some thunderstorms popping up along the dry line of this cold front late Friday night and into early Saturday morning. Again, nothing too crazy expected. And then we've also got some weather systems heading for Western Australia from about Wednesday afternoon onwards. This cold front here that's going to be moving through is really weak, but the shower pool that's going to be coming in behind it will actually be pretty vigorous. This westerly flow behind it is going to bring some very cool temperatures, some potential small hailstones, some storms to the south coastal region, and potentially some isolated heavy rainfall Thursday morning and into early Thursday afternoon for the Perth metro area. It'll also help in keeping temperatures very cold on Thursday, maximum of 14 degrees for Perth, and cooler for the eastern suburbs as well. And even down into the southwest, we're not expecting temperatures to break double digits on Thursday afternoon. You can see down around Mount Barker 9 degrees. Even outside of Pemberton and Katanning, you're looking at temperatures of around sort of 8 to 9 degrees here. Very, very cool indeed. Not expecting anything in the way of significant heat, that's for sure. And that is in stark contrast to the heat wave that's extending across Western Australia. That is developing now and will continue through Thursday and Friday of this week. Another very interesting thing on the forecast here, and this is semi-tropical tropical, but remember that cold front we were talking about 2 minutes ago, where you can see Monday and Tuesday this low pressure system starts to develop inland in Western Australia. And this low pressure system here fires up a bunch of showers and thunderstorms along a trough line late Tuesday afternoon. It looks like it could actually be a severe thunderstorm event across parts of the south interior and the goldfields. The majority of the action will be towards the east of the goldfields if it does actually happen, or at least to the east of Kalgoorlie and Coolgardie. But there's still going to be some rainfall and potentially heavy falls you can see here outside of Esperance and along towards Israelite Bay. The rainfall could at times be intense down here, where up to 50 to 80 millimeters is possible, and you can see it here on the rainfall accumulation map here through Wednesday and into Thursday. Just from this low pressure system alone, a bunch of rainfall is possible, actually a lot more than 80 millimeters, up to 120 millimeters of the stuff is expected. It is reciprocated amongst the forecast models as well. I mean, take a look at this. The Axis G3 calling for some falls as well out in this part of Western Australia. They're calling for it at a different time, but you can still see in the 5 to 10 day forecast period there is going to be some significant falls at some place into the interior or goldfields region of Western Australia. So it looks like later on in the forecast periods we're really going to have to focus our attention down towards the south of Western Australia, where a potentially severe thunderstorm outbreak could be underway. Very interesting indeed. And another thing worth noting on the forecast models as well is northeastern New South Wales. They do have a little bit of a thunderstorm event likely sometime late next week, or mid to late next week. You can see here Monday and Tuesday some thunderstorms do fire up along the northeastern corner of New South Wales and into the southeast of Queensland. These are the first real tropical thunderstorms that they're going to be seeing for the wet season 2024-25, and it looks like some of these storms here could be quite strong. Again, they're not really apparent on the forecast models here, but just the spread of thunderstorms here and the conditions, considering there's going to be very warm air apparent across northeastern New South Wales and some high levels of humidity into the upper atmosphere, thunderstorms are going to thrive in an environment like this, and it looks like they are now on the forecast, and this has been a feature on the forecast for the last couple of days as well. Looks like next Tuesday might be worth watching up in northeastern New South Wales and southeastern Queensland, because some thunderstorms certainly are possible there. Now, we've definitely talked about enough of southern Australia in terms of the winter weather that's going to be happening there. So let's warm things up and talk about the heat wave that is extending across central Australia. Now, there's only going to be so many more days that I can actually call this a heat wave until this actually molds into normal weather. But what I would refer to this system as is the big low pressure systems powering the near 40-degree days being reported across wide swathes of Western Australia, the Northern Territory, and even into parts of Queensland. Today is going to be a scorcher actually across parts of Western Australia, down towards Kalgoorlie. Temperatures as high as 35 degrees expected, and then around Fitzroy Crossing and Derby temperatures up to 40, potentially 42 also expected on the forecast. These temperatures here are an abnormally high amount of heat that's extending across Western Australia abnormally early on into the wet season. Typically this heat starts to build late September, early October, but it's decided to build early September this year, and I reckon that this is going to be a pretty consistent trend throughout the next month or two, where we're going to be seeing these heat waves really start to warm things up across the northern parts of Australia, especially into Western Australia, about 3 or 4 weeks before they normally do start to warm things up. And I just think that the heat now is certainly stuck in now for Western Australia. I think that it's going to continue to be really hot for the next 6 or 7 months up there, and I don't think Marble Bar is going to see a day below 35 for the next 7 months. Obviously they will see 1 or 2 splattered here and there, but I think the temperatures are going to remain blisteringly hot up in the northwest of Western Australia from here until the end of the wet season. So through Thursday and Friday as well, warm temperatures expected, a little bit of reprieve on Friday considering the cold fronts moving across the south, dragging that heat out and dissipating it as remnant energy across the southern states of Australia. Temperatures will continue to warm up again on Saturday and Sunday, and the heat really does build into the northeast of New South Wales through Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. And you can see here Tuesday afternoon where these thunderstorms are expected to fire up. They will be slightly more mild, but you can already see temperatures at 8 a.m. over in Queensland, into the mid-20s, even the high 20s for parts of the northeast or the north, or into the east, the west of the state rather. Get my directions all scrambled here. Very warm temperatures nonetheless though throughout Tuesday and Wednesday. Prime conditions for thunderstorms to fire up, potentially severe as well. We'll keep a very close eye on this thunderstorm event. Temperatures continue to warm up through Wednesday as well, and then into Thursday of next week. You can see this big hokey pokey low pressure system in the Great Australian Bight, and that's going to be dragging in a lot of warm air into South Australia. Temperatures as high as 38 degrees Celsius expected as far south as some of those Barossa ranges that will extend up towards I believe Roxby Downs is the town. Yeah, Roxby Downs is the town just outside there. Warm temperatures into the Northern Territory and warm temperatures into Queensland as well. Now, speaking of the far north, it's time to talk about rainfall. There is a bunch of it now on the forecast, especially into the 5 to 10 day forecast period. We're really starting to see these accumulations pile on for far north Queensland. The northern rainfall onset by definition hasn't struck up yet for parts of far north Queensland, but it's only a couple of days away. I mean, take a look at this. The Eastern Relief now expecting between 120 and 150 millimetres of rainfall for parts of the Cassowary Coast, and you know my math up here, you can generally get away with doubling that amount of rainfall for the wettest of locations, so expect some places in the next 10 days to pick up 10-day accumulations of around 300 millimetres or so. There'll be some showers throughout the course of today, nothing too heavy, only a couple of millimetres expected here and there, and the majority of it should miss Cairns. The rainfall will pick up later tonight into early tomorrow morning. There could actually be some isolated heavy falls around Ingham and Cardwell, and this is where I'd like to talk about the onset of the wet season. By definition, it's the first 50 millimetres of rainfall that falls after September 1st, and I reckon to the 9 a.m. on Thursday, the 5th of September, the northern rainfall onset, or the wet season, by definition, would have begun for locations around Ingham, Cardwell, and some of the ranges outside of Townsville. Also outside of Innisfail, Babinda and Tully, there could be potentially up to 50 millimetres falling there. Now, most of you up in far north Queensland are probably screaming through your computers right now, wondering what the hell I'm talking about, but that is by definition. Most of you know up there, the real rainfall doesn't pipe up until late November, early December. I see a lot of comments around Christmas week. Last year it was a little bit early with Cyclone Jasper, but it typically is around that December timeframe where the rainfall really does pipe up, and that's where we're talking about 500 millimetres plus a week up there. And yeah, that is still a couple of months away, but by definition, the wet season is forecast to begin sometime in the next 48 hours up in far north Queensland. The heavy showers will continue throughout Thursday as well, and even in towards Friday morning before some temporarily easing of the rainfall. Saturday and Sunday it's still going to be showers up in far north Queensland from the onshore flow that's expected to persist up there. Some light showers throughout Sunday night into Monday and Tuesday before the rainfall looks like it pipes up again Wednesday and Thursday next week. And all of this rainfall day by day, when you're talking about 20 millimetres a day, it really does pile on. You can see it here on the forecast models if they want to load in. A bunch of it is expected into the next 8 to 10 days. In fact, a really significant amount of it is expected in the 8 to 10 day forecast period, up to 150 millimetres of the stuff. That's certainly going to get some water into the rivers, certainly going to continue to saturate the ground up here. This is a map we haven't talked about for quite a while, but it's a soil moisture anomaly map here. You can see soil moisture values are still about 15 to 20% above the average. In fact, into the Daintree, they're much above the average here, between 30 and 50% above the average up there, significantly above average. And when you're talking about rainfall, to the degree that we're expecting on the forecast models, up to 100 millimetres of the stuff, a lot of it is just going to continue to saturate the ground or potentially become runoff and add to the flow of the rivers up there. Certainly not expecting any flooding, definitely not even minor flooding, not expecting any of it over the next 10 days, but it really does start things off for a rainfall event that might come through October or November, especially into the early seasons when they're not necessarily expecting it. The flooding can catch a lot of people off guard, and this is just a sign of an early onset to the northern rainfall onset up here. It's a sign of we're expecting the rainfall to come in really thick and fast earlier on in the season. That's what I did say in the forecast update that I released a few days ago. I was expecting the real rainfall to begin at least a month or so early for parts of far north Queensland, and I reckon that I'm going to keep that prediction at least for the next couple of months. I see no reason to doubt that forecast. I do reckon the rainfall is just a couple of weeks away up in far north Queensland, or at least the real rainfall probably about 6 or 8 weeks away. In terms of the radar imagery up here, well, I did get a little bit confused when I was researching for this video. There's really nothing on the radar up here, but the forecast models are suggesting showers up in the far north. I reckon the radar will start to build later today. You can see there is some thicker cloud just out to sea. This is the more sort of rain-bearing stuff here, and I reckon that will continue to build throughout the course of today, especially into the afternoon and the evening hours when a lot of evaporation takes place. Anyways, that is enough on far north Queensland. We will touch on the Northern Territory and Western Australia. In fact, believe it or not, there's some thunderstorms currently firing up into the northern interior parts of Western Australia around Warburton and Newman sort of area, or well outside of Newman, but it is sort of in that general area still. Some showers and storms are expected to continue throughout the course of today. You can actually see them on the lightning map here. I have to be really careful of what I bring up here on the forecast and just not to spoil stuff. But you can see there was a few lightning strikes out around sort of Warburton and Docker River earlier on this morning. Certainly the first thunderstorm events that they've seen for this wet season, and I reckon that this is going to be an ongoing trend as well, with thunderstorm events being more prevalent into the early parts of the wet season up here. Let's talk about rainfall up into the north of the Kimberley and into the Northern Territory. There is now quite a bit on the forecast for this time of year over the next 10 days. You can see showers and storms expected to be pretty consistent around Truscott and Columbaroo over the next 10 days, especially into the 5 to 10 day forecast period. There's nothing really on the forecast right now, but you can see Sunday night, Monday night and Tuesday night we are seeing showers and storms firing up pretty consistently over the top end of Western Australia into the Kimberley region. They give the bigger population centres such as Fitzroy Crossing, Halls Creek, Kununurra, Wyndham, those sort of areas a bit of a miss, but along the northwestern coast of the Kimberley, between Columbaroo down towards Derby and Broome, there is the chance of some thunderstorms later on in the afternoon hours of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday next week. A very interesting feature to have on the forecast for this time of the year, that's for sure. Typically those thunderstorms start to fire up late October, early November, and again, like we talked about up in far north Queensland, the northern rainfall onset, the first real rainfall is only a couple of weeks away from Western Australia and into the Northern Territory as well, and it's only going to be a matter of time till we start to see those thunderstorms firing up daily over Melville Island and into Darwin, for the Northern Territory at least. Anyways, that is all that I have time for today. Thank you so much for watching the video to this point. If I've left anything unanswered, then please do let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to as many people as I can throughout the course of today. Your support in the videos lately has been greatly appreciated. A special shout out for channel sponsors. Without them, I could not run this show, so their support is much appreciated. But that is all for me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.